Sanjana Yermanani, and I go to Wilcox High School.
I'm Kayla Fand, and I go to Santa Clara High School.
I'm Piper Wilson, and I go to Santa Clara High School.
I'm Bella Jimenez, and I go to Mission Early College High School.
I'm Ahmed Iftikhar. I go to Wilcox High School.
I'm Miko Eben. I go to Cupertino High School.
I'm Antonio Davila, and I go to Santa Clara High School.
I'm Nithi Bhaskaran, and I go to St. Francis.
For our new term. So some of the things that we've discussed include inclusiveness, intergenerational opportunities, civil discourse, and youth in government and political involvement. And yeah, so within these topics, we've kind of limiting ourselves to these because our work plan is not finalized yet. So if you wanna propose anything, we could totally consider it.
Yes, next Friday. What do you know what date that is? Yes, October 20th, and we will be showing a movie at the library. Wait, which library is it? Central. Right. So we've been doing these Sunset Cinemas, and we sell popcorn and juice to benefit, and we're reaching a broad audience. And then last year we were also very successful in our first 5K at Central Park. So we got a lot of great donations for a raffle at the end, and we had about 100 participants, would you say? 150 participants. And
so in addition to the Sunset Cinemas, last year we began the first ever 5K run. So it was a fun run, and this was promoting our goal last year of health and wellness. So this is something that we renew.
Question, besides the events that you're and supporting, which sound really fun, what other types of items are on your work plan?
This meeting, we're actually going to have our youth commission meeting where we're going to start finalizing our topics. So this is just what we have right now, but it's definitely not limited to this.
Okay. I want to introduce Vice Mayor Dominic. Okay, so you're working on what are the types of interests that you have? Last time we talked about various things that the commission might. Reviving those again. Our open space areas. Also to have the youth commission give some kind of feedback on some development projects that we have coming up in town for things that you'd like to see. I know got a top 10 list of other areas of town that you might be interested in. Really getting you involved in a level into the things where advisor that I think the city clerk is going to we understand that issues because of the time involved in attending city council meetings and other things, and maybe get your input. It doesn't include sitting around for hours and hours in the evening at a council meeting. very involved and type A students because you're here and on top of all the other responsibilities you have. So those are just some of the things that I would like to talk about. Also, just joining us is Councilmember Teresa O'Neill. So other council members, before we start talking about?
The talent show, or is that part of your work plan?
It's actually something that we're still thinking about because increasingly over the years we've noticed that attendance has gone down and we don't have that many auditions and acts anymore. So it's
Okay, well, that's good to know because I was lucky enough to be a judge last year and I really had a lot of fun, and because there's a lot of talent in, in the community. So there's not a lot of opportunity to showcase that talent. So if you did it again, I'd love to be a judge. Just
On that point, a member of the community approached me, and I mentioned, he brought up about students or young people performing and trying to have, bring some added life to Santa Clara events. And he was talking about something he had heard about, I think that like London and so where they kind of had, they in England they call it the busking or whatever, but they would kind of have like more impromptu representations of local talent, having some people go to different gathering places, maybe the Santa Clara Town Center, theater and music and dance and things like that. Maybe they could think kind of like now they use the phrase pop-up, like we did all that placemaking activity. And one of the themes that came up in that is having, it doesn't have to be, that wouldn't take as much infrastructure to plan as a talent competition, but, having a way for people to perhaps, even before some of our concerts or other appearances that you might, a young person could get up and perform for 5 or 10 minutes or something. That's the thought.
Looking at four-year schools that are in your senior year, and you're right in the heart of recommendations and all that, but Mission College has offered Santa Clarans $1,000 towards tuition. My question to you is, has that reached the masses at the school that Mission College is basically giving tuition for free? Because I know a lot of Santa Clarans, unfortunately, are choosing schools like De Anza and Foothill and West Valley, which aren't offering that incentive. Can you give me some advice on that?
So I know that like our youth commission is very like spread out throughout all the different high schools. So I was thinking that like word of mouth, like they would listen to their friends rather than just like some random, like they don't know who John is. So like this guy, like he's trying to tell us to go to this event, but we don't know who he is. So I was thinking that since youth commissioners, we're pretty diverse in like the schools that we go to, we can just go to like our school and then spread the word there. I'm sure that like through that way, like, and then people could tell their friends, especially like, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I'm just
So I was wondering from a staff liaison perspective, if we could just maybe send a quick email and they can share it with their social networking. And the other thing is, I'm sure you're aware, significant for you. So hopefully you're aware of that as well. Thank you.
So I just want to touch up on the on the topic that Councilmember O'Neill had, and it was that last summer I went on a trip to Boston, and I ate at this really cute square, and they had a piano out in public where people could just come and play. And I was wondering if that could be something that we could possibly bring back to Santa Clara, because it could definitely promote just having spontaneous musical performance.
Councilmember Neal said like a pop-up event. Just put the, some chairs and a piano and, something like that. Where would you want to see that? Where would you go if you saw something like that?
I was thinking more around the type of attraction would definitely bring more people to the area. So downtown Santa Clara, but I mean, obviously there are other places in Santa Clara that are pretty popular, just like the city Santa Clara Square with Target and Mission Sacred, or just a commercial area. You get in, you get out. But honestly, I feel like anywhere could be fine as long as there's people.
Like for instance, if we put it in the pavilion at the Mission Library, in Santa Clara, would you be able to get the word out that, hey, there's something going on here to all your friends? I mean, is that, how do we get the word out to, to the youth, your age in
So,
this community?
Yeah, I think the best, most efficient way to do it is social media because speaking from personal experience, there have been a few surveys that were and see that there was a survey for minimum wage increasing. So if I didn't see that on Instagram, I wouldn't have known about it. So personally, I think that social media is the best way to do it. But Caroline, do you want to speak about that too?
Yeah, so I think social media is great if you want to attract like the teen age group, like a large and diverse group of schools. So we're able to reach a broader base, and also getting advertisements in the Santa Clara Weekly would attract maybe like not necessarily the teens, but more adults who read the paper. So if we use a combination of all these different platforms, I think like that would be perhaps, yeah.
Thanks. Patty?
Yeah, I did want to follow up on that. So my 92-year-old mother does Facebook. So to me, it seems like Facebook has become so institutionalized, it's no longer relevant. So what is the most popular social media when you communicate with people in general?
Rotary phones still?
Okay, so as someone who's more of a media or social media person, and as someone who's as historian for a lot really quick picture and a really quick caption that like everyone either scrolls through or just stops and like kind of looks and like analyzes it. While Facebook, you can have like so many different options. You can like post polls, you can you can comment on other people's, like take videos and everything like that. To go because it's just really quick 10-second snaps because nowadays, I know a lot of teens have very short attention spans because of a lot of social medias. So using Snapchat would be a really good way to keep their like attention spans as well as like have all the information out as soon as possible as well.
Something like that that could be used to communicate with all of you at one time?
We currently don't have our own Instagram page. However, we sometimes can submit things to the Parks and Recreation or Teen Center Instagrams. So we kind of collaborate with those platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook is an option that we would definitely consider. And it's very simple, and it's just a matter of all of us following a bunch of people at our schools and getting the word out. So that's definitely an easy thing to do as far as publicity.
And how can the city be helpful in doing that with
other than just teens that we go to school with, because we all have our friend groups and it's only going to get that far, but we need everybody to make an equal effort in like reaching. So like if everybody reaches out to their group, then we're like reaching a lot more people, so we just need information on them.
Thank you.
I know that there's a way to follow people, and I know Kaylee's got, and I'm sure you do too, Damara, you've got your class, each class has a Twitter group, right?
Yeah, Santa Clara does have a Snapchat, and it's like a really good outlet for spreading the word out. And also a really cool thing that class of 2020 does is they have everybody within their class to screenshot it and also spread the word to their friends as well.
Mhm.
So it's like it's a really easy way to like now, I guess, in the city.
Yeah, I'm just thinking Twitter would, it does seem very popular from talking to my daughter and being able to follow others. I mean, you could just follow a class group and then you by instantaneously have X amount of new followers. Just reach out into that media, and there's a lot of ways to interact. I mean, between all of your schools, and just follow them and build your base.
I think there's a couple things here. One is that in your work plan to talk about, can we work together so that we can get you involved in, for instance, projects and placemaking and other things that really can leave your mark on the city for the future, and young people that will follow you for years to come. And because you and only you know how your friends and your groups communicate together. I swear it's a different world out there. I have a 17-year-old, and you know, I try to be friends with her, but then she has her regular name, then her fake name, language that I don't understand. Only you understand, but in order to communicate, we have to have something to communicate. What do you want to communicate? So in terms of projects and how we work together, and if you can sponsor like a pop-up event, and maybe you don't need a whole lot of time to do that, but you do that through a communications plan. So those are the things I just wanted to throw out. Anyone else we'd like to? Debbie.
What are some of your big interests right now? What is like the big thing other than Instagram or what? You're laughing. Come on, girl.
I think kind of the big thing for most of us right now really is just a place for us to go and spend time together as kind of a community, a group of friends, a school group. And I think that's why on Friday nights, and it's somewhere that's close that everybody can go to. So I think that's one of the things I know that we talked about at our last city council meeting with you guys that I think we've started to talk about last year as well as we can continue to build on this year. But it's just finding inexpensive things that kids can do in large groups and small groups. Low-key.
Okay, so it's affordability, it's a large place that you can go, something that, like, if we got like food trucks or something like that, but on the lower end scale, some type of entertainment. You guys are all bobbing your heads. Okay, we're here. So how do we get that out? I mean, how do we help you produce those? Because to me, once you start this, it's more of a, and then your Instagram
About
account.
100 a day.
Yeah, okay. So that way you're communicating within your group, but how, you know, to get those folks there, but we need to get you that logistics, that place, so that you can have that kind of fun entertainment kind of a thing. So, okay, so maybe what we need to do is look, okay. And the music is a big component. You guys are totally into music. Okay, cool. So I think on your work plan, could you think of some ideas that you could throw out us that are kind of, you like, that you think are funky or someplace to go to, the kind of music you guys like, and you know, get you there. I think that seems to be the disconnect with the older people here than the younger people. So, but I think it's important that you do communicate with everybody in the community, because I think they're totally interested in this. And even some of us old people, like, we're totally into this too. We like music. We like food too.
My friends at downtown San Jose, and we came across this like art museum type. It's called Color San Jose, and it's basically like an empty like warehouse where like they provide paint and like a stage, and like you could paint on the walls, and then, or you could express your art any way you want, and then if you wanted to perform, you just let him know and he'll create a whole time slot and you perform the whole night, or you guys can hold events. And it's basically like the pop-up thing we were talking about, where you could like show your own way, do something where we have a way where it's like free expression, where we can color, like obviously it's not like derogatory or anything, like color on the walls or paint or do something, and then like find a way to like express our music. That would be like really like cool. Yeah.
So you're looking for an expression outlet.
Yeah.
They kind of do that until the lights go out, and then all of it is all these sayings. There's poetry, there's saying, there's people art. I mean, I get what you're talking about. I think that's a really cool idea.
And if we like incorporated like the taco trucks, where it's like affordable.
Taco trucks,
Yes,
okay.
because right now taco trucks are like would be like the best place for the youth to hang out in. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, at least I got some of it out of you. You guys are like, why so shy? Come on, speak up. Okay, I like that idea. I think that's a good thing to do. And once again, we just have to figure out how we get communication on our part. If that's part of your work plan, then maybe outdoor.
Indoor.
Outdoor, yeah. Okay, well, we don't want to go into the rainy season, but anyway, thanks, guys.
Yeah, so actually on that note, if you wanted to figure out something that was also really cool, there's also something called Museum of Ice Cream, and we're going to that next month. Anyway, so it's a really cool just museum, have really interesting, cool looking abstract rooms, and for example, there's like a room with a bunch of bananas tied to a string, just like hanging from the ceiling, and it sounds really weird, but there's something called Instagrammable. So financial standpoint, it doesn't seem too difficult because again, it's just like an empty warehouse where people come and like they decorate it, and then open it to general admission. So if that's something that is possible, like if there's like an open.
How many of you have been to the Triton Museum? Do you think that's a cool place to have an event?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So I was actually just about to mention that. I know that the Triton Museum, I mean, I don't even know the last time I went to like as a spectator just to kind of go and walk around. But I know for we're including the Triton Museum, the Recreation Center. I mean, going into like if we did something with intergenerational, using the senior center. So kind of using our city's resources in that way where it's something we already have and making it interactive, so it's something that families can go to. It's something that teenagers, spectrum of people that live in the city, by just using things that we already have. I think kind of tapping into those would be a good idea.
Lisa, just an offshoot of that. It's a really easy thing to do, these painting things. You don't need a room. All you need, because my stepson's done these, he's an artist, he's done these for the Willow Glen residents, these instant walls. You can make it as big as you want. You could have it at the Triton outdoors. You can preserve your painting if you want, or not. So you don't need to look for a space, because unless you get a willing private owner who's willing to, utilize the space while it's empty, which happen to take as you want.
And it's a great facility in terms of the grounds, which is right across, where are we? It's over there. Yes, it's right across, so there's a lot of open space. You should take a look at it. And maybe something in conjunction with maybe some of the exhibits at the Triton Museum, which are super cool.
Like they had actually some things I actually even went to. They had like this like kind of salon nights, and then they had like night at the Triton, and some of the younger staff people were doing these very interactive, very interesting things. And there were a few people my age, but there were a lot of college came up with all these very interactive things. And one of the things that was getting a lot of attention was they had a typewriter on a desk with paper, and a lot of the younger people were like, what is this? And so I think that we could work, we could partner more with the Triton because
I personally have never been to the Triton Museum, but I know that if our schools like Wilcox and Santa Clara and perhaps even other schools nearby could have events at Triton Museum or like coordinating with the Triton Museum, then that would be something that kind of like forces you to go, but not necessarily. For me, if my school did like a dance at Triton Museum, because I know that Tech Museum hosts like prom and winter balls and stuff like that. If Triton Museum holds something like Sadie's, which is not as large, but also is sort of informal, then it would be something that brings a lot of Santa Clara students.
Yeah, we did. The Ismo students came one year, and they don't have proms like you guys have proms. So we did a mock prom with them, and it was hysterical because we got them in dresses, and we had the music, and we had like a little dance and party. It was really cute, and we did it because they didn't understand the prom system that we all go through, I guess. You still do that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, just wondering. But it was interesting, and these kids didn't, they loved it. They thought it was great. The dressing up part, they didn't get that whole dressing up part, and then they had to pick a date. So it was really cute.
Time we met, talked about the types of retail and commercial that you'd like to see in future development, since we do have some coming up that are going to have a tremendous amount of retail. Have you had any discussions on that?
Yes, so I know we met at the end of our term last year, but we were able to compile trucks, as we mentioned, taco trucks especially, some sort of public pantry where people could give back, so they could like bring food, and like I guess it would kind of be like a food truck, but you would bring donations, like snack type things or canned food, and then it's like a give one take one type of thing. Coffee shops that aren't chain, so like we don't necessarily want to see a bunch more Starbucks and Pete's go up. We'd rather see like Phil's or like some independent ones. Icicles, which is like a nitrogen ice cream shop. Churros. Teens prefer more affordable options while like still having them be unique. So like we don't necessarily want to see like the same chain 5 times around the city. We like the little unique ones that are exciting to go to for the first time. And then entertainment, we were like really friends. doing something like that. So something like a bowling alley, roller skating rink, or a place for live music, that would be really fun. And then we would like to see more like public art around the city, like murals where people can take pictures. I guess that's one of the common themes, like teens love their social media and public garden, and that would be really pretty. And then, yeah, we talked about placemaking and pop-up events. Yeah, does anyone else have any things that they would like to see in the city?
I think definitely, like they said, not the chains, but like the mom nights, or they can go and perform music or things like that. Just kind of small, intimate places where friends can go and gather and study for a test or hang out or get a coffee. And I think those really cheap things, I think and I know my brothers, when they were in high school, like the billiards hall was like a big thing for like the guys to go do, like go play pool, like late at night and whatever. So I think just kind of youth-friendly, cheap activities like that, and then mom and pop shops to kind of like bring our community in, are ways that I think we can get kind of everybody.
On there?
I live like down the street and I had no idea.
Yeah, there's this really kind of very interesting couple that runs this store in Santa Clara, and they've got they've got all kinds of like graphic novels and comics, and they play games, and they have interesting little toys, and they have, Vision comics.
I can't remember the name.
Because you helped them get the
Yeah,
lease.
I leased it,
It's
but
like
I can't remember the,
They have tables in there, don't they, for kids?
for game playing.
And I think they even have a room in the back for serious game players.
Is game playing a big interest of any of you? Some, yeah.
Like
some,
this
yeah.
live action role playing or whatever.
One?
I've actually seen some coffee shops that like hold like set times for like the gamers. And what I was going off on Caroline and Piper is that like like especially if it's like the interior is really like hip, where it's a good place to study. Everything's modern. We have all our modern food like boba or like some colored coffee or something. With free Wi-Fi, like that's the type of things that we would Instagram, and that's how word would spread. Like I know some places that they barely opened a month ago, but the way they have their advertisements is ways where no matter like what, because they're like, oh, we have a promo, if you Instagram us you'll get 20% off, or like things like that. Yeah.
I think that's what I was thinking about in terms of the events that you have and what you plan. That's all great about planning a wonderful event, but yes, Patty.
In order to make those kinds of things happen, because you're talking about private business owners, we as a city, and we fail miserably in this right now, have to make it easy for especially the mom and pops. They don't have the money to open what it takes to open a coffee shop, because the city needs to have a streamlined permitting process. We need to have so quick, because the other thing is mom and pop doesn't have is time. They're investing their life savings in opening their store. They can't wait a year. They need to start making profits like within a few months. And I know for a fact that it takes much, much longer than that to get a restaurant permit in our city. And it shouldn't have to. Our city, because the business owners are going to send these out, not the city. My son got one and he was off in a shot. Oh, Mom, I got to go. I can get a free beer stein if I go and buy 5 beers. I go, 5 beers or whatever it was. I don't know. It wasn't 5. But those are the kinds of things that young people respond to, and they respond to them instantly. It's all about just instant, go now. We have opportunities downtown. We have opportunities at the Related Project, which served north of Bayshore. But I'm glad to get these ideas, because knowing that this is where the future customers lie, now it's up to us as a city to make sure that the businesses can come here and come here easily.
More ideas you have, what you're talking about?
I was just looking at a couple questions, like what would hold.
We can't hear you, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking at a couple questions that were thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Am I just
You have to
quiet?
speak into it, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there you go. Hi.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yeah. I was just looking at the kind of questions that we had. Those like if a cool place opens, how would it be successful? So I don't know. I was just thinking about that California Mochi, and what they have is Polaroid pictures that they put on their walls, and it's something that's really cute, and it kind of encourages people to go because when they go, they can have their picture taken, and when they come back, they'll be like, "Oh, there I am," and like they can keep coming back and keep like looking at those photos and seeing the collection grow. So that was just some. What is grammar? Sorry, it is something that people would want to keep coming to.
One of the things you said, and we have Nick from our Chamber of Commerce that's sitting right there. Nick, say hi to everybody. And they represent a lot of small business in the city too. And I think maybe, Nick, if you're listening, which you are, to our age and the types of things that they're interested in, I would imagine that your organization would be very interested in at least talking to our youth commission on, ideas to improve the businesses and at least make the businesses available around, especially around the schools. So I don't know if you have any comments, Nick, on what you're hearing. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Sorry to put you on the spot. I just saw you there and I thought it would be a really good match if the city and the chamber and the development, which is the 230 acres on our golf course in Santa Clara, and they're going to have probably like a 50-acre new, we call it our Uptown, which is going to be tremendous in terms of entertainment, arts, restaurants, all sorts of activities. It'll probably be 4 to 5 years to be available, and I think if we can find creative ways to get your input into that development when they start to look at finding their tenants for the development, I think your input would be invaluable. So if we can figure out ways so that we can have that communication available too. Deanna, our new city manager, do you have any comments?
About with just the quality of input, especially coming from this side of the room. I'm impressed that you're willing to share what you need and what would make us more successful. And
Debbie,
Alicia,
go.
do you know Big Mug Coffee on El Camino?
Can you speak in the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Big Mug of Coffee on El Camino.
Yes, I do. It's sorry, excuse me. It's actually a place that I used to go to a lot, and then it got really busy. But then again, Big Mug. The reason why I went there is because Big Mug is just so nice inside, and their food was pretty affordable. It's like $3-4 for a cup of coffee, and it's a place that has Wi-Fi. They have outlets. So yeah, I really love Big Mug. It just got too busy for me.
Okay, I was trying to think, I was going back and forth with Kathy. I said, I'm trying to think of the name of that place on El Camino, and I had to Google it. So, and then there's another place that's over on Stevens Creek, and it's in the Bed Bath & Beyond Mall. There's a funky little cafe, coffee, and they did their guitar thing, and so.
Is that Chromatic Coffee?
Yeah,
Can't think of it, yeah.
Chromatic, yeah.
So, what Alicia was saying was that like with Big Mug and Chromatic Coffee inside, their interior, their decorations are very modern. And what actually brought like social media, where I know it's like really weird to think, oh, Yelp as a social media, right? But then us like always trying to find cheap, cool places, we'll look through the photos, and a big eye catcher in Big Mug were those like light bulbs and the big wall, like the map of the coffee, right? And Mochi, the one she was talking about. And when we first opened, nobody heard about us. But then when they started talking about the Polaroids, where we personally ask each customer, oh, would you guys like to take photos? And that's where they start asking us like, oh, so when did you guys open? I saw you guys on this. The mom and pop shops start, like that's their time to shine, when they get to interact with the customers, because a lot of customers haven't had insight of what these places are about. Yeah.
Like us, we just walk in, get a cup of
into the the central park in the back and added like a really nice coffee area, indoor, outdoor, with maybe study tables and things like that. Would that be something that would interest you? If there was coffee enough, or what, what you're looking for in terms of,
If you
if we made it
incorporate
that
like
way, Instagrammable? Is
like
it
fairy
Instagrammable?
lights, you know fairy lights?
What's that?
Fairy lights?
Yeah, fairy lights, yeah.
Yeah, Christmas lights, or like a place where there's, Santana Row has.
Look around town for places like that for us? Yes. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I guess too
I've
much
been
time.
to-
You gotta just
gotta
grab
jump
that
in there.
microphone and jump in.
All right. So I've been to Chromatic Coffee a couple times, and one of the things I really like about Chromatic Coffee is that they have standing tables, change and stand while you're like having a cup of coffee. So a good idea might be to have some taller tables so people can stand around while they have their coffee.
I remember going there for the first time, and
I think it was a really good idea how you mentioned the coffee shop being right like near the library, because there's so many resources inside of the library. Even if they just come because of the coffee, they're still gonna like probably go into the library and check out the resources that they have there. So having it like where we already have something established like that, like resources that are like they're not just there for the coffee anymore. Once they get there, they're not just there for the coffee.
Okay, great.
Oh, sorry, I just had one last thing I was thinking of. So I've grown up just down the street from the Franklin Square Mall area. And I've kind of seen over the years it's kind of deteriorated in its popularity. But I think a way that to kind of revamp, even maybe, I mean, obviously getting new shops would be something great to look into, but revamping it in a way that like when we have our Saturday flea market kind of farmers markets on Saturdays there, having a piano so people could go and play, like something to make it or go pick up my dad's dry cleaning. And I think something to make it that all of Santa Clara would want to go and come to it. I think it would bring people to the farmers market on Saturdays, and I think it would bring people to those small restaurants, those small nail shops over there, the small little businesses. I think they could get busier. I think we just have to kind of plan events around areas like more.
I like that idea.
Can I ask you? I know we're talking about doing things in Santa Clara, but let me ask you, how do any of you ever go to Main Street in Cupertino by any chance to hang out? What do you think about hanging out over there? What appeals to you aside from the obvious?
Different drink shops that are really affordable to high schoolers. Like I believe there's 5 or 6 different like coffee shops or boba shops in this one little area, and they also have a couple of parks that you can go to that's in Main Street that a lot of people like to.
It has the cool factor. I think you guys brought that up at last meeting. That Main Street was the cool factor. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, I think personally, teenagers like options. So what I think, like I go to Main Street all the time, and what I like about it is there's, I don't know, I'd say 8+ different like lunch options. Get your food to go and like sit out on the grass and all eat together. So there's nice like outdoor space as well as the different retail options. So I think that's another important thing to consider.
That's a really good point. I bring my family and we all go different places. Yeah, everybody has different tastes. Okay, great. So in terms of discussing and some, I think, assignments that we'd like you to look at and really get back to us in terms of looking out in the community and giving us feedback on different things that you are in farmers market, and putting pianos here and looking at pop-up events there and other things that can be done fairly easily.
So yeah, I do think that we got a lot of information from this meeting, and I do think that we do have a little twist to it to make it a little more attractive than it was before. And certainly with placemaking with the top 10, that's something that we'll certainly revisit. I mean, we have our list from last year, but I just had one quick question about the placemaking initiatives that we were talking about last year. So I remember briefly talking about plans of opening like a downtown Disney kind of thing in Great America. I was wondering if that's still
of the operations at Great America, and it's part of their master plan now. And do we know the timing on that? I think, Ruth? We don't know the timing yet, but it's in their master, they call it. It's called the Front Gate Project, was approved by the council, I think the beginning of this year.
And they did
So that
talk
is
about
happening.
adding like a bowling alley and some other things, because like they knew that, you know.
Smaller concert venue.
Yeah, the open air concert thing. I think that's
Yeah.
why you guys like the idea, because that has
Was
a
it
cool factor.
Like 10,000 or 20,000. Working on your communication structure in terms of your own page and identifying the youth commission, because I think that you are leaders that your peers are looking up to in terms of the leadership position that you've taken in the community. And then through our city manager's office, John can work through our city manager's office. Okay, so you got a lot to do.
Make sure you take a big group photo and put it out there on your page so everybody knows who's there.
And invite us all
to their phones these days. I know that the Santa Clara Library just recently added like where the charging stations, and I know some places have them like stores. So maybe like throughout Santa Clara, like I don't know, just add like random charging stations. Like that would be pretty useful. I don't know, it was just on top of my head. Yeah.
Oh, phones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
She was thinking cars. See, I knew that.
Charging station for these things.
Yeah, charging stations.
No,
for
that makes a
phones.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like they have in the airport, those instant charging.
Yeah.
Yeah, different charging.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm
so
sorry.
that's a great idea. With you, and thank you for your leadership and participation on the Youth Commission. We're really proud of you, and I think you represent your peers very well. So thank you for joining us this evening. Thanks.
We'd also really like to thank you, Mayor Gilmore, and council members, as well as city staff, for making the time to have this meeting with us, giving us this opportunity to talk to you guys again.
Thank you.